Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. At long last, I actually don't feel like I'm about to die. I don't feel like I'm about to come down with another bloody sneeze. Who would have thought that my immune system would be able to fight off such a deadly thing as a common cold? Well, obviously, Keir The Traitor Starmer wouldn't ever think of this, because he lacks that rare thing called common sense. As does Kemi badenoch. Yes, the new Conservative leader. Oh, isn't she thrilling? No, she's about as thrilling as a granny's gathering at bingo. OAP 65. Here we go. I don't want to talk too much about Kemi badenoch, because there isn't really much to talk about, to be brutally honest. Like, my literal reaction when she was announced as the winner of the Tory party election was, okay, and? Because that's the way I look at her. She's a nobody. Well, actually, no, that's not entirely true. She made a statement regarding the vaccine of COVID. This was way back yonder in 2022, saying that the vaccine was perfectly safe for mothers and their babies, pregnant people. And yes, I do know I look like I've got a child along the way. I wonder what I'll call him, maybe Flubber. Anyway, the point is, she made a statement about the COVID vaccine, saying that it was completely safe. Do I seriously need to remind you, Kemi, of the athletes and the footballers who suddenly had heart attacks and and fucking keeled over and died? Do you really need to be reminded of that shit? Or are we just going to sweep that conveniently under the rug and say, oh, that's just pure coincidence? Let's face it, the vaccine was something that was engineered by our government, which vaccines normally take at least, I'd probably say, 5 to 10 years, bare minimum, to actually properly manufacture. So how the hell was our government able to manufacture one in less than a year? Even more so, how were they able to adapt to 3 extra strains of COVID? Because there was COVID, then there was Delta, then there was Omicron, and then there was some other fucking one I can't remember off the top of my head. But last time I checked, these vaccines were not as 100% effective as people were made to believe. In fact, the only thing it really did do was it pretty much guaranteed that people who took it basically wouldn't die straight away from COVID. But here's the thing. The vast majority of the British people, or any people for that matter, could have survived COVID because it was nothing more than a glorified cold and should have been treated in the same manner as the flu once a year, in that the only real people who were truly in danger were the elderly and the infirm. I mean, if a fat fuck like me can survive multiple counts of COVID, then surely it stands to reason that you could have easily survived it, relying on that good old thing called natural immunity and your immune system. I will never forget or forgive this kind of deceit from Kemi down badenoch. In the same way, I'm not going to forgive our establishment for trying to give Jacinda two-class society Arden the potential to become a dame, rather than be charged with crimes against humanity. And that's before I even get into the fact that Kemi badenoch is so blatantly a DEI hire. Mind you, in her defence, to play devil's advocate here, it isn't really that hard to become a politician when the only qualifications you need are the ability to lie through your teeth. And just like Kamala, Kemi definitely does look like she has teeth faker than Hollywood. But come on, now I'm starting to nitpick. The bottom line with Kemi down badenoch is that she basically has no credibility. Much like all of our politicians, housed in the houses of treachery, I mean Parliament. Or maybe I was right first time. Honestly, I couldn't give a fuck who's the leader of the Conservative Party. I couldn't care less if it was Gary Lineker who was leading the fucking Tory party. Because at the end of the day, the Tory party have completely screwed themselves over this last election. Though I will give this much credit to Rishi the Slippery Sunak. At least he had the balls, whether up here or down there, or in my case both, to actually answer questions from the public. Do you see that with Keir The Traitor Starmer? Ha! You'll be lucky if he answers, what shoes are you wearing? So as far as the Tory party is concerned, that's about the only thing they've got going for them. The fact that one of them at least had the credibility to answer questions. Oh, and more importantly, he wasn't trying to deny free speech. I mean, how sad is it that Keir The Traitor Starmer has made Rishi the Slippery Sunak look like the best thing since sliced bread in the last 3 months versus Rishi Sunak's 2 or 3 or 4 years in power. But what I really want to know is what's going to happen with Kemi Badenoch as far as Tommy Robinson is concerned. Because Martuzi is going to be putting out a video showcasing basically her speech regarding Tommy Robinson. Only time will tell if she actually cares about this man, or if she's just another government shill saying, oh, he's a far-right racist football hooligan thug, blah, blah, blah. Let's see if Kemi Badenoch has the brass balls, in her case upstairs, to be able to say it how it is. To actually call out this political persecution for what it truly is. Because Nigel the phony Farage won't, Richard the Mouse Tice won't, Lee Anderson won't, and Anne Witless Widdicombe won't. So surprise me, Kemi Badenoch. Surprise me. Show me, and the rest of these people, that you can actually say the right things and do the right things. And then you might have the ever so slightest slim chance of making something happen. The way I look at it, I think a lot of us, though, would rather be voting for UKIP. I fundamentally believe that UKIP are the way forward now. I think reform, the way I look at it, the moment they decided to throw all the Tommy Robinson supporters and Tommy Robinson under the bus, their credibility went up in smoke. Just like that. And I'm not going to lie, I even thought about sending a letter to Nick Tenconi. I'd like to know if that would be a reasonable idea to send a letter to Nick Tenconi. Maybe I'll sign up. Who knows? Obviously that's a tentative thing, and I can't guarantee it, because obviously that comes down to UKIP themselves. But you know what? If you don't try, you don't know. And I'm pretty sure that Nick's going to need more MPs to represent each constituency. I'll happily stand for Norwich, and I will happily drop kick any of those traitors out of the constituency who do not represent us. Obviously, metaphorically speaking, I'm not actually going to try and drop kick someone, unless of course I want to cause an earthquake in the United Kingdom. Anyway, I don't plan to do a drop kick literally on people, but I am there to do a metaphorical drop kick to take out the trash out of our constituency. Because the bottom line is, a lot of these constituents do not have MPs that represent their people. And I think this is going to be a cold, bitter truth that's going to hurt a lot of people. But reform, as I said, they're not for us. They are not the party we're looking for. I mean, they're looking for any Tom, Dick and Harry from the Tory party to come join reform. Well, if you keep bringing over Tory people, you may as well rebrand the Reform Party to the Conservatives 2.0. Now, as far as the Tommy Robinson situation, it seems like he's gotten another video out, and he's basically advertising his books again. A couple of them are banned on Amazon because obviously they're afraid of him being able to spread the word of Islam and what have you. And by the word of Islam, I mean how intolerant it is and how much of a third world shithole death cult it truly is. I mean, I guess to be fair to Amazon, I can't really blame them for banning it. I mean, if I was part of the globalist Marxist agenda, I'd want to get rid of books that completely shut down my narrative. So therefore, it stands to reason why they're trying to get rid of Muhammad's Quran, and of course, they've banned Tommy's silenced book. But I've already got mine, so they can go eat shit as far as I'm concerned, and maybe, just maybe, no promises, I may even start reading that shit. And then that way, that'll be 2 books on YouTube that those traitors will not be able to silence. Because at the end of the day, people have a right to know all of the facts and all the information presented in front of them. I'm not going to sit here and say, you should think this way, you should think that way. No. I want to put all the information out there and, of course, plead my case with my humble opinions and preserving what is known as facts and presenting them to our treacherous enemies. And then I leave the decision-making to you. Whereas our treacherous media and, of course, our schools want to teach you what you should think rather than how to think. But, of course, the mainstream media won't tell you this. You know the drill, folks, because say it with me, it doesn't suit the narrative. And it's, of course, people like me that Keir the Traitor Starmer wants to silence. Because, after all, people like Tommy, people like Martuzzi, people like Richard Inman, stroke number 1, people like Paul Thorpe, and people like myself, we're willing to put ourselves out there and put the truth out there. At the end of the day, am I scared of going to prison? Oh yeah, 100%. Fucking terrified. But that won't stop me from putting the truth out there, because it needs to be put out there. Tommy Robinson, the way I look at it, could be a martyr in these upcoming months. Keir the Traitor Starmer is going to do everything he can to off Tommy Robinson. Why else do you think they moved him from HMP Belmarsh after assurances were made that he would be safe, and then they moved him to Wood Hill Prison, where a lot of the staff allegedly have all of a sudden decided they're not going to work there anymore. And a lot of the work is done by inmates. Now, would it be far-fetched for this prison to have a predominantly Muslim population, to have its Muslim inmates doing jobs like cleaning, all of a sudden just bump into him all of a sudden? Is it really that far-fetched? I mean, Wood Hill was the place where Tommy had his teeth kicked out and knocked in, and he had the shit kicked out of him by a group of Muslims who were unaware that he was going to be locked in the room with them. Because if they were prepared, and they did know, they'd have had knives, shivs, blades, all kinds of weapons, and Tommy would have been done. Just like that. So it stands to reason why I come to these kinds of speculations at this point. If we were to reverse the roles, and it was a Muslim being put on a wing full of far-right football hooligan thugs and blah, 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 and this Muslim was put on the wing with those thugs, how long do you think it would take for Muslims to show up to that prison and demand that person be put to safety? More importantly, how quickly do you think the prison governor would cave into that? Just like that is what I think. I think they would cave in an instant for fear of being called racist, even though you can't be racist against a religion. But then let's face it, under Keir the Traitor Starmer, he would never let that happen, because he said he will do everything he can to protect the Muslim community, which means he is a sectarianist bastard, indubitably. But I always bring these things into perspective so you can understand it, not just from Tommy Robinson's side, but what if we put it on the other side? The other side would be livid with this shit. The left always likes to glorify violence, though, especially against one Donald Trump, which the elections are coming up tomorrow. I think I already know who's going to fucking win that one. And I don't even need the results to know. I will be gobsmacked if Donald Trump does not get handed the keys to the White House. But then it's pretty obvious that Kamala faker than Hollywood Teeth Harris has already been involved in electoral interference with mainstream media up in the US, which means her credibility as far as the elections is completely shot. Just like when Trump got shot in the ear at the Pennsylvania rally the first time round. And I said it before and I'll say it here again. The moment they tried to assassinate Trump, and the shooter, thank God he was a shit shot, had completely failed to kill Trump, even though the Secret Services practically handed Trump on a plate, they basically handed Donald Trump the keys to the White House. Just like that. I am of that unequivocal opinion. The moment they failed that assassination attempt, that was it. They were cooked. 200 degrees in the oven, 15 minutes, ding. And that's my fish and chips ready. Anyway, they were cooked the moment they failed that assassination attempt. There is no way that Kamala Harris can come back from this. Especially when mainstream media has been like, I think it's like 84% positive influence in Kamala Harris's election, while a lot of the media coverage for Trump has been 89% negative. Now, if Donald Trump has been looking at what's been happening in the United Kingdom, he will undoubtedly have seen what happened on both the 27th of July and, of course, the 26th of October. He will also know about what's happened with Tommy Robinson and will most likely call for his release, because people, whether you're left or right, I think a lot of people, but especially Trump, are going to see the persecution of Tommy Robinson for exactly what it is: a political, malicious campaign against one patriot. I mean, we've already had Elon Musk chip in as far as the Southport riots are concerned, and there is worldwide condemnation of Keir the Traitor Starmer over the Southport riots, how he willfully covered up information about how the attacker in Southport was indeed an Islamic terrorist. But they didn't want to tell us that, and the media all tried to preach, oh, he was a choir boy, oh, he's so innocent, why would he do such a thing? Yeah, and then it found out he produced ricin, and he had an Al-Qaeda manual in his home. Yeah, someone explained to me how innocent he is now. And then, of course, the BBC, what do? They start backpedaling. They say the teenager, a teenage boy who has been killing these people, blah, blah, blah. No, he's not a teenager. He's a full-grown fucking adult. Call him it. I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts if it was a white British person who was just about to turn 18, you'd call him an adult. Willing to bet dollars to donuts, especially if he went around killing Muslims. Just flipping the script here, folks. Because we all know the mainstream media would do exactly what I've just said. They would call them out if it was a white person. They won't dare do it with Axel Radukabana, who was an Islamic terrorist. They did all they could to cover this up. And this scandal is going to end Keir the Traitor Starmer. It will. It may not end him straight away, but his career is cooked. Just like that. Because he has taken political prisoners who were saying that this guy, if he wasn't a Muslim, even I said it, and I wasn't at the protests, I categorically said, even if Radukabana isn't a Muslim, this was bare minimum inspired by Islamic terrorism. And it turned out I was right. Yet they wanted to label people like me as far right and people spreading misinformation, and that we shouldn't speculate. Now all of a sudden the mainstream media's gone silent on that. Oh, where's the misinformation now, Keir the Traitor Starmer? Oh, that's right, it's with you, Yvette Cooper, Rachel Reeves, all of you treacherous bastards in the Houses of Parliament. And I'm more than happy to repeat all this if I need to. I don't give a shit if I have to repeat the last 20 minutes of what I've just said. Because unlike other people, I'm not going to sugarcoat a motherfucking thing. I am not going to mince my words. I will pull my glasses off if I'm not careful though. Anyway, I'm not going to sugarcoat a motherfucking thing. I'm not going to mince my words. I'm going to say it exactly how it is. And I will do my best not to bullshit you. Unlike Keir The Traitor Starmer, who's literally, his trade is bullshit. His trade is selling lies. 44 billion, 11 million, 22 billion, 2 trillion, 3 trillion. They can't even put a goddamn number on this so-called black hole of money, which they're trying to put their money towards. As I've said before though, I'll tell you where a good start would be as far as filling that so-called black hole of money. Foreign aid. Get rid of it. We need to look after ourselves first. We take away all this funding towards, for example, Ukraine, easily get like 2.5 billion back per year. And that's just Ukraine. There's probably a whole bunch of other countries I could research and give you the exact figures of how much we've been giving them every fucking year that we could easily invest back into our systems. We have illegal immigrants coming over, costing the taxpayer, I think it was something like £18 million a day, just to house the fuckers, who we do no background checks on, who we have no idea who they are, what their intentions are, and whether or not they're going to come along and violate our women or children. And it seems like almost every day that this goes on, a new video ends up getting uploaded, whether it's on TikTok, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's on YouTube, of an illegal immigrant coming over here trying to either stab or violate our women and children. But that's something, of course, the mainstream media don't want to tell you. The BBC, Channel 4, Sly News, and all the other mainstream media outlets wonder why they're losing so much of their audience. It's because the people know they don't tell the truth, or at least not the whole story. Whereas independent media is willing to go out of their way to tell the other side of the story, or to tell both sides of the story, and therefore give you a chance to form your own opinions. But the media doesn't want you to think for yourself. Keir The Traitor Starmer doesn't want you to think for yourself. They want you to think what they want you to think. George Orwell's 1984 personified. Animal Farm springs to mind. The bottom line is, Keir The Traitor Starmer is responsible for a lot of the shit that's gone wrong in this country. Thank you. God, some women are just loudmouths. Christ. I was swearing just before they got on the bus, and some clown wants to call me disgusting for swearing. She could jog on for all I care. Anyway, back onto the point in hand. She wants to be a loudmouth. The bottom line with Keir The Traitor Starmer is he has got not one shred of credibility about him. We could easily send some of this money that we get, send the money, I can't even get the words out now, bring back some of the money we send off overseas. We can bring it back to the UK, invest in our NHS, invest into schools, invest into housing, invest into prisons, whatever we bloody need. We could easily accrue some money by kicking out the illegal immigrants in our hotels, when we should be housing some of the 300,000 of our own homeless in there. We could actually save a substantial amount there. 18 million a day towards, things like the NHS or the housing. But then that would be too commonsensical, wouldn't it, folks? There is so much money we could invest back into our country. But who's got the balls to do it? Who's got the guts to actually say, you know what, we're going to stop helping other countries for the time being while we get back on our own 2 feet and rebuild ourselves? Because we are in trillions of pounds of debt. We could easily fix that problem by sorting out the issues with sending off foreign aid money and of course giving money to the illegals. We could also be a lot more stringent with our own. Anybody who is not seen to be making an effort to find a job, contribute to the system, take away their pay, just like that. And I reckon a lot of these people would start finding jobs very quickly. Back to balancing this thing on a toaster. Anyway, point is, we could easily accrue some money back through what I've just mentioned. The other things I'll also mention as well, which would make a very big impact, would be get the Navy in. Line them up along the shore, gunboats at the ready, snipers on top of the boats. Have someone with a megaphone. Any dinghys that try to cross over illegally, give them one warning. Turn back the boats, or we will sink them. And if they refuse, or if you don't want to risk people getting killed, just have the sniper put a few holes in it. At least then you know people aren't going to get killed on the back of your shit shot. But you know what it would do, most importantly? All these people smugglers, they'd go out of business. Forget about spending fucking 25 million, 75 million, 75 billion, whatever the fuck the figure is that Keir The Traitor Starmer has put forward. You could easily stop those boats by putting in the Navy and shooting every single boat that comes in and then ferrying those people back over to the channel. You do that, this illegal immigration issue gets resolved. Just like that. You know why? Two reasons. One is that the people will lose money for having to purchase the dinghies and then they get sunk in the first place. That's minimalistic, I grant you. But the second most important reason is the people that are making those crossings who are paying 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 euros or whatever to get a seat in a dinghy that is completely crowded to shit and barely seaworthy. Do you know what they'll do? They'll stop paying them. You know why? Because they'll realise, oh, we're not going to get past. We're not going to be able to get over to the other side. Well, what's the point then? That's all you got to do. These bastards make in excess of €1 million a month by trying to ferry people across the shores illegally. But their business will dry up in an instant if you send the message that those who come via the shores in this route will not be welcome here. Like I said, get rid of the boats, send them back, and those people will stop paying the people smugglers and the problem gets resolved just like that. Or am I using too much common sense again? Like, that's the thing. That's the cold, bitter truth. All it comes down to is somebody with a pair of balls, whether up here or down there, or in my case both, to be able to say, you know what? Time to get tough. Put the people along the shores, in their boats, snipers on top, aim at the dinghies, warn them, turn back, or you will be sunk. If they refuse, sink them. A lot of people are going to say, that's inhumane. You'll notice how I don't say let them drown. If I really wanted to be an inhumane cunt, I would probably say something like, you could even go along and hold their heads down below the water just to make sure they die. I'm not saying that, of course, because I'm not an inhumane bastard. I may be a cunt, but I'm not an unreasonable cunt. All I am saying is that we shoot the boats and take the people straight back. There's a big difference between sinking their means of being able to cross over to our shores and outright letting them drown. What say you? I don't think that's inhumane. In fact, I'm probably being very generous right now, because I think there are a lot of people who literally don't give a shit about these people and who will literally say, let them drown, and they actually mean it. I'm at least saying, sink the boats, pick these people out the water, and send them back over. Over to where they came from, that is. Not over to our shores, because we don't want them. And are you going to call me inhumane for saying that? Is anybody stupid enough to say that? But it's not just a housing issue, or a prison issue, or a school issue, or insert issue here. I mean, the vast majority of them, there are some that genuinely won't be the migrants' cause, because obviously they can't really change that. For example, energy prices. But I will safely attribute at least 4 things to them. The housing crisis, the prison crisis, the job crisis, and the economic crisis that we're in right now. And that's before we even get into the fucking schools. So, if anybody thinks I'm tearing them a new arsehole, as I said, I'm being very fucking kind right now. And I don't have to be. You should see me when I start going completely unleashed. Think of that fucker who had, like, this inhibition collar or something on, and then the moment it comes off, everything just gets fucking thrown out the window. You know, that kind of shit. But the bottom line is, a lot of these issues could be resolved by simply taking out the crux of the issue. Immigration. Close the borders. Stop all migration into the country. Full stop. Until we can look after ourselves. That's 1. 2, stop sending foreign aid over to foreign countries. Step 3, stop sending money to illegals who are in this country or for people who want to sponge off of benefits, whether they be our homegrown or the illegals that come over here. Like I said, you want to sponge off the system and you don't want to contribute, we need to get these people off. We need to get them off the benefits and actually give them some kind of incentive to get into work. So, oh, you're not actually trying to get into a job, but you want to look like you are? Okay, you're off benefits. Good luck surviving. People may not like it. The whole bit of truth is, we need to start getting tough. Keir the Traitor Starmer is not the tough guy, though. He's not the guy who's going to be like, I'm going to make the tough decisions. No, he's the guy who's going to label everyone far right. He's the one who's going to protect Muslims rather than the entire country. We need a new person in power. Someone who isn't a complete WEF shill or a traitor to their own country, quite frankly. And quite frankly, Keir the Traitor Starmer, as much as I loathe the bastard, has all the potential in the world to fix these issues. The trouble is he never will, because he's already declared his allegiance to Davos and WEF. And Kemi Badenoch is another WEF shill. The way I look at them, same shit, different colour. That's the cold bit of truth. Because being a WEF shill, it doesn't matter what the colour of your skin is. It doesn't colour... stroke number 2. It doesn't care what your religion is. It doesn't care what your sex is. If you are a shill, you are a shill through and through. And all I see Kemi down badenoch as is another shill. And a nobody that basically no one's going to remember, no one's going to look up to as, oh, they saved the country. Unless, when I link it in the description below, in my Tuesday's video, she actually comes out and says something actually supportive of Tommy. Let's face it, I can probably guess, without even looking at it, it's probably not going to be good. But if it does turn out that she's actually in support of Tommy, then you know what? I'll be happy to sit here and put my hands up and say, you know what? I was wrong. But I suspect I'm going to be more correct on what I'm thinking. But we'll save that for when I look at it. And when you look at it as well. But Keir the Traitor Starmer is not the right leader for this country. Reform are not the right party for this country. UKIP is the only way forward. The only people who are willing to serve reform now are the people who literally do not care about their country and think it's okay for a man to be politically persecuted under the guise of contempt of court, when the real reason Tommy Robinson was sent down was because he gave the government a black eye and a bloodied face. You'd almost think that Tommy Robinson went and played fucking Mike Tyson's Punch-Out or something like that. And there you can see the gaming thumbs, and you can probably see Keir the Traitor Starmer failing to play the NES. But then that's only something gamers would know. But hey-ho. I look at it as Keir the Traitor Starmer and the establishment have been bloodied something awful by Tommy Robinson, and as such, they're doing everything they can to make an example of him. But they won't do what they're planning to do to us. They hope that we'll be cowed into silence. The polar opposite will happen. More flames will ignite, more heroes will rise from the ashes, and more people will speak out against the two-tier state that Keir the Traitor Starmer is leading.